Well, there's all kinds of people come here. A lot of British tourists. They mainly because you can't get to Stonehenge, into Stonehenge anymore. You can't go and sit in the middle of Stonehenge like this anymore. You got to walk around a roped off area, reasonably so, because Stonehenge was starting to be degraded. People were chipping chunks off it and all the rest of it. So they protect it. It's a national monument. But here you can come and sit in here, and it's a different thing. People from the U.S. come up here. There's all sorts of. I remember when I first made it, it got a lot of press, and there's a guy drove in from Toledo. Just had to come up here and see it. He drove all night to come and see this Autohenge. So. Well, it really just happened to me, actually, because I got a call from an ad agency that said, can you make us something that looks like Stonehenge out of metal? And this came to mind. It was for a car commercial, so how appropriate. So actually the original concept of it was by a guy named Peter Jarrett, who was the ad writer, and he saw something. They were talking about doing something, maybe standing up a few pieces of metal or doing a couple of cars. And when they mentioned that, I could see it in crushed automobiles, an exact replica of Stonehenge, and so that's what I proposed, and they said, great, go for it. So Stonehenge has been studied to death. So there's all kinds of, every stone in Stonehenge is plotted, and I quickly realized that the location was really critical, because it makes you think, why were these guys putting up these huge stones? And you sit down and think about it. And I live high on a hill too, and I get up in the morning and I see the sun rise and I see the sun set, and I know it changes from day to day. So you can think of an early farmer. He just started farming, quit hunting and started farming. All of a sudden he's sitting in one spot every day, and he's starting to notice that the sun sets and rises in different places. So he sticks sticks around his house, and he can, after a few years, he can figure out what the seasons are. So he has this ring of sticks around his house. Then you get, and he's now planning ahead. So he's smarter than the rest of the farmers. And they're looking up to him saying, oh, you know better than we do. What should we do next? And he's thinking, well, you have to plant in 3 weeks, or the birds are going to be coming by here that migrate every year, and we can get them. And so he became the power chieftain, or the priest. And once he had that power, he said, well, come on, guys, help me take these sticks down, put up some stones. And of course, this would probably evolve in several places at once. So you all of a sudden, these stone circles would start to grow over a number of centuries, and then it became whoever had the biggest and best stone circle was the high priest, because they got elevated from farmer to chieftain to priest, you see, because they could see the future. By sitting in the middle of their ring, and everybody was in quite awe of this. They don't know what they're doing, and then it becomes a little bit secretive. Say, oh, we're not telling them, but this is just checks when the sun rises and sets. This is our magic. This is our energy. And so then, and of course, when they were building them, they'd get them built and they'd have a feast, and they'd kill a goat or something like that, and so then there'd be competition amongst these tribes with their various stone rings to who would have the biggest and best feast. And they'd sacrifice more and more animals until they're probably sacrificing humans, you see. And so it became a religion. And it just evolved from a simple calendar, essentially. That's how I see it. And then if you relate this to the automobile, and you think about, well, these cars are, a car is the symbol of who's got the biggest and best and these cars they're like the out of the 70s when the cars got to be the biggest, you see, and they're just as obsolete as Stonehenge now, right? I went around the world and I collected all the artwork to do with Stonehenge and had an exhibit of that, and I was invited over for the opening of that, and then they featured Autohenge got the star billing on it. It was amazing. And when I walked in, there was this huge photograph, and the fellow who put the show together, Christopher Chippendale from he's at Cambridge. He says, "Don't you recognize your own work?" And he was pointing at this picture, and I thought it was a silhouette of Stonehenge, but it was, he'd come here and taken a picture of Autohenge, and he featured that as the cover, and on the cover, and then he gave it a great write-up. So this is as good as going to Stonehenge as far as he was concerned. Oh yeah, it's right to scale. The other thing is Stonehenge is exactly 100 feet in diameter. They didn't have metric things, but and the cars are the same dimensions in height and spacing. There are details that are, you know, there should be another ring of stones inside here that are much smaller, but this has got the meat of it, you might say. Well, from when I talked initially to the ad agency till when we finished it was less than a month. I think it was the 23rd of August in 1986. We started at just the end of July.
Can you talk us through the process, the actual mechanics of erecting Autohenge?
Well, it was relatively simple to do because, as I say, the plans are already laid down. I just wanted to duplicate it, and the major problem was getting the cars to the right dimension. A standard car was too flimsy, so we had to put two of them together, but putting two of them together in their regular form wasn't good enough. You had to crush them, and it looked better crushed anyway. It has the texture. So I had to find a wrecker that with a crusher and close enough, and I had a budget to work to, and weigh all those things. The guy that owns this property has a backhoe, and he dug the holes to put them in, so that wasn't too big a problem. What we did, we made a model. It was a 100th scale model, and I took it around to several locations and set it up at dawn, at sunrise, and looked through it, and just so you could really get a picture of what the full scale one was going to be. And when I found the right location now, and that became the center of the full scale one, then we just took radians off that and laid it out. Hired a big crane, trucked all these things in and put them in place, and there were three of us worked on it for about 3 weeks, and it wasn't a major problem to make it. I would think it was a lot easier than Stonehenge, and probably not as much fun. Less bloodshed probably too, but there was you know, a few problems, like rained solid for a week at a time. The trucks got stuck bringing it in, and you have a deadline because the guys that wanted to shoot the commercial were all planned on that day. But there's a few coincidences happened that were quite nice. The day when Chrysler wanted to shoot the commercial, they had back-to-back good weather for 3 days. That was quite amazing because historically that had never happened in those 3 days before. So they got sunrises and sunsets and got their shots.
You are witness to an event that turns to dust all that has gone before. Come and get it. Witness the complete car, Plymouth Sundance and Dodge Shadow. Features you once accepted as costing extra now come standard. The price you thought was gone forever has returned. Introducing the complete car, Dodge Shadow and Plymouth Sundance, making history instead of being a part of it. Chrysler, best built, best backed.
Well, first of all, I can't say that it's 100% my creation. I mean, a bunch of us worked on it, and Peter Jarrett had the original concept, but I'm the part I played in making it look right. I'm sort of like the director of I'm like the architect of it, you know, and I really enjoyed it. You know, a lot of the work we do, it has to have a lot of finesse to it and fine finish and all the rest of this. The whole thing when we were working on this is don't scratch anything, don't scratch anything. No, they ran it during the World Series in 1986. That was all they really ran it. The problem with a commercial like this is that everybody remembers the set but not the car. So you saw all the commercials after that. They switched to just basic car on a beach or a car in a set, you know. People, a lot of people clicked in on Autohenge as being something and forgot the car that it was advertising, which was the Dodge Shadow and the Plymouth Sundance. That's why they said Shadow and Sundance. Great idea, and because how it relates. And the ad was well written and everything, but of course, people, you know, I mean, when you think about all the things that happen to us today, you turn on the TV and, oh, there's a thing that looks like Stonehenge. You go, and you're thinking about that, you're not thinking about the car, and so the car gets lost in the memory, and you know, our memory's a sieve, and it just filters out what it wants. So there was not enough focus probably on the, I'm just assuming this, because they only used it for a short time, and it's more an art piece than it is a commercial piece. That's what it comes down to. I'm sure it's not going to be around as long as Stonehenge, but in its reality form. But in record, it's going to be, because we've got videotapes and film and whatever. So it's going to be gone in probably 10 to 15 years. You know, it'll all rust away and collapse, and it'll be kind of funky as it goes. But it definitely won't be around for 4,000 or 5,000 years like Stonehenge. Maybe someday, before it does rust away, some sculptor will come and carve all these cars in stone and replace them. You know, good gun item was, but it is a temporary piece in terms of monumental sculpture, I suppose. Yeah. It's. I think more people should experience it. I'd like to see more people experience it. And it's a little difficult because, you know, the way things are today with ambulance chaser lawyers and all those things, that if somebody hurts themselves, they sue you and all the rest of it. And so if you make it a public place, then you got to spend thousands of dollars a year in insurance and put a gate up, and you got to charge admission, and that spoils it. Right now, the way it is, there is minimal insurance on it, but officially we're all trespassing. So so you can't really sue the landowner. The landowner is just you know, he makes his living off the farm here, and he couldn't afford to put up with a $50,000 lawsuit, right? I've written all the local. I've written Ontario Ministry of Tourism, the Minister of Tourism, the Mayor of the township, the Mayor of Oshawa, the head of the Durham region that this is in, and invited them all to come here and try and we'll make something out of this, because it is a great tourist attraction. There's more aircraft fly over this just to show it off to people because it looks great from the air, you know, and I would like to see it being utilized more as to attract more tourists to the region, so to speak. None of them have responded to my letter. They don't know how to handle that. So that's the way it is at the moment. It doesn't matter to me. Well, there's a couple of of bands want to do rock videos here, and there was that summer solstice this year. There was a group came out with a crazy tinsel car, and they that you wear, and they drove it around the outside of the thing, drove it by walking it around, and when it was over, they sacrificed it. So it was quite. There's all kinds of things going on. This is Canada's. We see there's another coincidence here. Hawk, just right in the thermals. Anyway, there's the guy that started the automotive industry of Canada, Sam McLaughlin. His origins are only a few miles from here, and Oshawa boundary, which is the automotive. I mean, you look at the sign that says on Oshawa, it says the city that motivates Canada, right? Anyway, that's less than a mile from here. So, and these are mostly General Motors cars. So a couple of people said should have all the GM execs should come out here and just use this as a place to contemplate and to do their thinking. Sit here and look at it. It's not a bad. I don't think you'd find any of them doing it, but it's not a bad idea. We had a great party when it was over, and I had a little situation. I was training some geese to fly in formation with my motorcycle, and they flew in for the party, and the what do you call it? It was an amazing party because it was just absolutely fabulous sunset. There was about 50 of us here. The sun went down. We had a big bonfire in the middle, and all of these things became faces. It was amazing, like old gods looking at us and laughing. And then as the fire died down, then we had northern lights. Now that was just astonishing to me. So I enjoyed it. I still enjoy it. Because it has an effect on you. It has it's that, and what I put it up to, it's that deja vu. So many people have that sort of thing. They come here and they go, they're in another time and space, and they go, wow, that's, flips them into another thing, and it's really a neat thing to see people do that.
Did you get that sense yourself when you constructed?
Oh, well, not so much as constructing it, but when it was finished, and watching the sunrise, and we were here on solstice day, and then you do really get a trip back into the past from it, for sure. But there are a number of levels when you think about this, because Stonehenge evolved over such a period of time, and if you think of the primitive man coming across this thing and seeing this amazing structure out of these stones that it obviously took thousands of men to move, and I think it would become a focal point, so people would trek for miles to see this. And so I would think that all of primitive Europe knew about Stonehenge, and that becomes part of our default memory. And so when those have evolved from that area stand in this place and you look at this, and Jesus, this is like deja vu, right? It has that element to it, other than the sort of logical. Anyway.
You are witness to an event that turns to dust all that has gone before. Witness the complete car, Plymouth Sundance and Dodge Shadow. Features you once accepted as costing extra now come standard. The price you thought was gone forever has returned. Introducing the complete car, Dodge Shadow and Plymouth Sundance. Making history instead of being a part of it. Come and get it. Chrysler, best built, best backed.
Well, there's all kinds of people come here. A lot of British tourists. They mainly because you can't get to into Stonehenge anymore. You can't go and sit in the middle of Stonehenge like this anymore. You got to walk around a roped-off area, reasonably so, because Stonehenge was starting to be degraded. People were chipping chunks off it and all the rest of it. So they protect it. It's a national monument. But here you can come and sit in here, and it's a different thing. And I came here on summer solstice the first year after it was made, and it was overcast and you couldn't see where the sun rose or anything. This year we came, and it happens to coincide with my wife's birthday. It was 21st of June. And we sat in the middle there and watched the sunrise, and just coincidentally the sun rose directly over our house, which was a full coincidence. Yeah. I got a call from a ad agency that said, can you make us something that looks like Stonehenge out of metal? And this came to mind. It was for a car commercial, so how appropriate. So actually the original concept of it was by a guy named Peter Jarrett, who was the ad writer, and he saw something. They were talking about doing something, maybe standing up a few pieces of metal or doing a couple of cars. And when they mentioned that, I could see it in crushed automobiles, an exact replica of Stonehenge. And so that's what I proposed, and they said, great, go for it. So here, it just sort of went. I remember when I first made it, it got a lot of press. And there's a guy drove in from Toledo, just had to come up here and see it. He drove all night to come and see this Autohenge. So that's basically it. Sure, I'll come every solstice. And the winter, what do you call it? Winter solstice too. Yeah, I was here for that last year. It was quite good. Shortest day and the longest day. And then there's the equinoxes too. You can come for the equinox. You know. They all are make a point